Now in this video, I have the unit circle and the graph of y equal 1 tangent theta. And I'm going to explain to you how this graph is generated by rotating this point P for 360 degrees around the circle. Now, I'm going to bring this point P from right here to right here. Now, keep in mind that point P is a cosine and sine of gradient. The unit circle also has a radius of 1. I've got this right triangle here, and the bottom length of the right triangle is cosine, and the vertical side of the right triangle is sine. That's why the point P is cosine and sine. You can consider this line the x-axis and this vertical line the y-axis. Now the shape of this graph is generated because you are dividing sine over cosine. Sine divided by cosine equals the tangent. And that's what gives you the shape of this graph. So now I'm going to take this point P and I'm going to bring it down here. So now we're at 0. Now the cosine for a radian of 0 is 1. And the sine for a radian of 0 is 0. So what you have here is tangent 0 equals sine 0 sine 0 divided by cosine 0, and that equals 0 over 1, and 0 over 1 equals 0. And that's where that comes from. This is why this point right here is 0. Now, as the point moves up and moves toward 1/2 pi, the graph takes on this shape. Now, I've got the dotted lines. The reason why these lines are dotted at 1/2 pi and 3/2 pi is because for the graph of tangent, this point never really reaches 1/2 pi. And because it never really reaches 1/2 pi or 3/2 pi, the graph itself never really touches these dotted lines. And the shape of the graph, this side of the graph, really goes all the way to infinity. Same here, and same here. Over here, it goes to minus infinity. Over here, it also goes to minus infinity. Over here, it goes to plus infinity. And over here, it goes to plus infinity. Okay, now what's going on right here with pi over 2? Why is it that the point P never really reaches pi over 2? Okay, let's take a look at that. You got tangent pi over 2 equals sine pi over 2 divided by cosine pi over 2. Now what that gives you is sine of pi over 2 equals 1. And the cosine pi over 2 equals 0. So the reason why the graph will never touch any one of these dotted lines is because you have a 1 and a 0 in the denominator, which means that you cannot plot this point on this graph. Now what can happen is this side of the graph, right, it can come very close to pi over 2, but it will never really touch it, and it will just keep going to infinity. Now what do I mean by coming really close to pi over 2? Well, pi over 2, okay, pi over 2 the radian of pi over 2, right, equals 90 degrees. Okay? So, as I said, this point P, I'm going to take this point P and put it right here next to pi over 2. Okay? That point P, okay, the radian measurement, right? Now pi over 2 equals 90 degrees, but since you cannot really touch the 90-degree line, these dotted lines, so what you're really talking about is something like 89.99999, and these nines will literally go on forever. So what will happen is this line will go all the way to infinity, but it will never touch this dotted line because when you take the tangent of pi over 2 or the tangent 90 degrees, what you're going to get is 1 over 0, and 1 over 0 cannot be plotted on this graph. Now it's the same thing right here at 3 pi over 2. A tangent 3 pi over 2, okay, equals sine 3 pi over 2 over cosine 3 pi over 2, and that gives you, now here you can see that the cosine of 3 pi over 2 equals 0, and the sine of 3 pi over 2 equals -1. So what you have is -1 over 0. Now again, -1 over 0, it cannot be plotted on this graph because you have a 0 in the denominator of the quotient. So you go all the way around and you start at 0. Point P is not on the graph, so you skip pi over 2. Then point P starts somewhere along here, brings you into quadrant 2. That it starts somewhere negative and goes all the way to pi, and the tangent of pi equals 0. Then it goes into quadrant 3. This line goes to infinity, and it never touches 3 pi over 2, because 3 pi over 2, that will give you a tangent of minus 1 over 0, and minus 1 over 0 cannot be plotted on the graph. Now you're over into quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 will start somewhere negative, and it can go to minus infinity all the way to 2 pi. And again, the graph in quadrant 4 never touches 3/2 pi, because 3/2 pi will give you minus 1 over 0. At 1/4 pi is 1, and at 3/4 pi, at 5/4 pi, you also have 1. And one more thing, 3/2 pi, right, equals 270 degrees, okay? But what you can do, 269.99999. So you can come as close to this line as you want to be, but you can never really touch it. And you can come as close to this line as you want to be, but you can never really touch it. This brings me to the end of the video. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks for your attention.